Solitude was Jake Callahan's closest companion. His homestead perched where Arizona's vast canyon met endless desert, where only wind carried conversation across the emptiness. A devastating blaze had stolen his world years before his beloved wife, precious son, and the warmth of his smile vanished in flames. From those ashes, he'd crafted an existence built on quiet rhythms and solitary tasks. The earth demanded nothing but work, and his livestock asked no painful questions. Dawn brought the same pattern each day, rising with the sun's first light, tending horses, mending broken rails, surveying his territory, repairing whatever time had damaged. When darkness fell, he'd settle onto his weathered porch, cradling hot coffee while watching crimson light drain from the western sky. Town visits came only when necessities ran low, and even then, he kept his brim pulled down and words to a whisper, but that sweltering August twilight shattered his predictable world. While patrolling his southern boundary, an unusual sound drifted through the air, a faint whimpering that barely registered to human hearing. Initially mistaking it for wounded wildlife, he soon recognized a woman's desperate plea. Guiding his mount toward the noise, he pushed through canyon undergrowth until he discovered her, beneath a gnarled mesquite. A young woman lay curled on her side, gripping her injured ankle. Her garments hung in tatters, face streaked with dirt and scratches. Ebony hair tangled with debris, and frightened eyes deep and wide-locked with his. Neither moved for several heartbeats. Slowly dismounting, Jake raised open palms in peaceful gesture. "You hurt?" he rasped, voice rough from lonely silence. She couldn't respond, appearing too drained for words. Kneeling, he extended his water container. After hesitation, she accepted a careful sip, lips quivering against the metal rim. "Think you can stand?" he inquired. Her attempt to rise brought visible pain, head shaking weakly. The ankle showed severe swelling. Without further inquiry, Jake carefully gathered her into his arms, settling her onto his horse while walking beside them toward home. Inside his modest cabin, he positioned her on the worn sofa and began treatment. Though no physician, he understood wound care and injury management. After wrapping her ankle in clean cloth and applying horse liniment, she endured the discomfort silently. Hours passed without conversation. Jake offered beans and bread, then retreated outside, respecting her need for space. When night deepened, she finally spoke. Her words carried soft accents and careful caution. "They call me Nia." From the porch, Jake turned, surprised but composed. "I'm Jake," she acknowledged with a small nod, and quiet returned. Yet something fundamental had shifted. An invisible connection now existed between them. During her recovery days, Nia remained observant but reserved. She handled his belongings with care, honored his space, and expressed appreciation beyond mere words. Using gathered wild plants, she prepared meals that surpassed anything Jake had tasted in recent memory. Gradually, he learned she belonged to an Apache community nestled deep within the canyon. Though details remained sparse, Jake understood she'd been fleeing. Armed strangers had descended upon her village with hostile intentions. After being captured, she'd escaped under darkness, wandering the wasteland for days before collapsing on his property. Jake avoided pressing for information, trusting she'd share when comfortable. Meanwhile, something within him transformed. Watching her quietly prepare herbs or rest in golden porch light stirred emotions he'd forgotten existed. For the first time in years, he felt tranquility. One morning revealed boot impressions near his northern fence-deep marks too precise to be his own. Crouching for examination, his survival instinct sharpened. These weren't rancher prints, but heavier solace worn by bounty hunters or worse. Without alarming Nia, he cleaned his rifle that evening and positioned it by the entrance. The following day, while Nia worked inside with mesquite pods and sage, Jake saddled up to patrol his borders. More tracks appeared, these leading canyonward. Someone was definitely hunting. Upon return, Nia sat on the porch, expression troubled. She noticed the weapon. "You spotted them," she stated. Jake confirmed with a nod. "How close?" Rather than direct response, she studied the distant landscape, scanning rocky outcroppings. "They'll arrive eventually," she murmured. "They always pursue." Cold dread washed through Jake. He'd survived devastating loss before, but this felt different. No longer was he merely defending property, he was protecting someone precious. Sleep eluded him that night. He remained on the porch, studying stars and shadowed desert. Every sound made his hand drift toward the rifle. Eventually, Nia emerged with a blanket, settling beside him without words. She wrapped the covering around both of them, leaning gently against his shoulder. For someone who'd embraced solitude so completely, her contact thundered through his soul. In that instant, Jake Callahan acknowledged what he'd resisted admitting: he was falling deeply for her. But he also recognized another truth. The desert demanded payment for its gifts, and he feared rescuing Nia might cost him his heart. Dawn arrived heavy and foreboding. The desert sun climbed slowly, as though dreading the approaching day. Jake stood at his porch edge, surveying the landscape. Sleepless hours showed in his stance. His weapon was prepared, his horse ready. Deep intuition warned him today would bring the hunters. Behind him, hinges creaked. Nia emerged wrapped in a worn blanket. Though her ankle remained tender, she moved with quiet determination. Their eyes met, both sensing the approaching danger. "I could leave," she offered gently. "My departure would spare you harm." Jake faced her, jaw clenched. "This ground belongs to me. Anyone coming here answers to my authority, but I've brought peril to your sanctuary. You've restored life to it," he countered. They stood in charged silence, unspoken emotions heavy between them. Jake touched her hand softly. "I've already endured losing everything once. I refuse to lose you as well." Just before midday they appeared. 4 horsemen in dusty coats, hat brims shadowing faces, weapons prominent, eyes ruthless. Jake positioned himself before his home as they approached with practiced menace. The leader, a tall figure bearing a facial scar, stepped forward. "You're Callahan?" he demanded. Jake acknowledged. "We're tracking an escaped Apache woman. Fled from government transport heading to relocation facilities." He brandished an official document, though Jake showed no interest. "Haven't seen anyone," Jake replied calmly. The scarred man squinted suspiciously. "Certain about that?" Jake nodded once. "You're trespassing," the leader smirked, advancing. "Really want to shield some runaway?" "She's federal property." "We're performing our duty," Jake held firm. "This land is mine. Leave immediately." Tension crackled dangerously. The other 3 shifted nervously, hands hovering near weapons. Then a voice cut through the standoff. "I'm not going anywhere." Nia appeared at the doorway, small but unwavering, dark hair whipping in wind, eyes blazing with defiance. The scarred man grinned triumphantly. "There's our target." Jake's reflexes activated instantly. He raised his rifle as the man reached for his pistol. A single shot thundered. Dust erupted near the leader's Buddha, deliberate warning. "Next bullet finds your chest," Jake snarled, lightning fast. The others dismounted and drew weapons. But Jake remained steady as stone. Then Nia stepped forward, limping but composed. "I'll surrender," she declared strongly. "No more violence." Jake spun toward her, shocked. "No, this isn't necessary. I won't allow harm to touch you." But Nia moved past him. "I've lived in terror too long. I won't let them destroy what I've discovered here, not you." She addressed the scarred leader. "If I comply, you leave him unharmed." The man shrugged agreement. Jake's heart hammered as they reached for her. He raised his weapon again. "She stays." Everyone froze. "She's under my protection," Jake declared. "Want her? Come through me first?" The leader narrowed his gaze. "Ready to die for her?" Jake's stare never wavered. "Ready to kill for her." Something in his tone silenced even the desert wind. The other men exchanged uncertain glances. They were mercenaries paid to chase, not martyrs willing to die. Finally, the scarred leader retreated. "Not worth the trouble. Let's move." They departed, trailing dust like a defeated tempest. Jake remained motionless until they vanished, then lowered his rifle with trembling hands. Nia wept silently, tears carving paths through dusty cheeks. She regarded Jake with something deeper than gratitude, with love. That evening found them together on the porch. No more threats, no more fleeing. I was prepared to surrender hope, No whispered. I never imagined feeling secure again. Jake gently clasped her hand. You gave me something valuable too. What's that? He studied the horizon painted in coral and amber hues. Purpose to feel alive again. She rested her head on his shoulder as he encircled her with his arm. For the first time in years, the ranch felt inhabited. The quiet wasn't oppressive, it was serene. Time flowed onward. Nia's injury mended. She remained, beginning a herb garden behind the cabin. She instructed Jake in brewing healing teas, reading celestial patterns, interpreting desert whispers. He showed her fence repair, horsemanship, and marksmanship. Love went unspoken but filled every moment between them in Jake's wondering gaze. In Nia's evening vigils on the porch, one moonlit night, Nia posed a question. Do you ever regret the past, wish you hadn't suffered those losses? Jake considered thoughtfully. No, he replied softly, because without that pain, I never would have discovered you. She smiled through shining tears. Eventually, word spread through town about the Apache woman living with the solitary cowboy. Some whispered gossip, others cast suspicious looks, but none challenged Jake Callahan directly. Not after witnessing his resolve. Those who visited the ranch couldn't deny one obvious truth. Jake smiled again, even laughed. And Nia belonged completely. They constructed an imperfect but authentic life together, years afterward. Their story became local folklore. Some claimed she rescued his spirit while he secured her liberty. Others believed they were wounded souls finding each other when society conspired to separate them. But Jake and Nia needed no explanations. They simply existed, cherished each other, and watched their desert paradise flourish around them.